Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about some of the big time leaps that need to be taken for the title contenders this upcoming year. If they really want to be title contenders this upcoming year, definitely will be a really interesting thing to watch as we go throughout this year. But let's get into some fall camp intel. There are so many scrimmages happening around the country that did happen this past weekend, and a lot of different things that have come out from them. We have a couple of things from last week just to get you guys fully catched up, and then we will probably do almost every day we'll do fall camp intel because there are so many things that are going to start coming out from around all of the scrimmages all around the country. But where I want to start is at Penn State, and they might have just gotten a huge boost to that offense. When you talk about this offense, really one of the big only worries is that wide receiver room. You have to get more from that wide receiver room, a position group that does not return one single receiver with more than 250 yards from a year ago. So that's a problem. There's no two ways about that. Obviously, you have Harrison Wallace there that they feel pretty good about, and frankly, I think could be a huge player for them. Julian Fleming is someone they like. I don't think he's a wide receiver one, and frankly, I'm not sure if they do either. So that'll definitely be something to watch. But the guy I want to talk to you all about is Taysir Denmark. He is someone that has come onto the scene as a freshman and has immediately started making plays. And Penn State obviously needed this in the worst possible way. A very talented freshman that, frankly, I've talked about this before. Relying on freshmen to make all of your plays isn't great. If someone needs to fill in the gaps like Taysir Denmark, I think they'll feel more than fine about that. So Harrison Wallace, Julian Fleming, Caden Saunders all need to come along. And frankly, it sounds like they're having a very good fall camp, but having someone else there is going to be huge for them. And if it's a freshman, then more power to him. He's a very talented kid. So someone that Penn State kind of needed to hit, and it sounds like he is thus far throughout fall camp. Over to Miami, and let's talk about Akeem Isidore, a very talented defensive lineman for them. He was an ACC honorable mention, had 7 sacks a year ago. In 2022, excuse me, apologies for that. A very talented kid. It's someone that can absolutely make some noise for this team. When you have guys like Tyler Barron, Ruben Bain, and all of the other guys, Elijah Alston also on that edge rushing, when you add someone like this, things could get really dangerous. This could be one of the best units in the entire country when it comes to the pass rush and could absolutely wreak havoc against a Florida team that might have some offensive line troubles, but we'll get into that likely tomorrow when we break down some more stuff. But definitely a very huge thing for Miami. When you look at this pass rush, it already looks really good, but if you add someone else to that group, it could be absolutely terrifying, honestly. Wisconsin is where I want to go to next, and we're going to talk about the two guys in that picture, Tyler Van Dyke and Braden Locke, two very talented quarterbacks that were fighting over that position for a little bit longer than some people thought. I think a lot of people thought that Tyler Van Dyke would ride up there and dominate spring and walk away with the title of starter, and frankly, I kind of did too. Didn't quite happen that way, and that definitely made some Wisconsin fans nervous. It sounds like Tyler Van Dyke is taking that role. It sounds like he is finally taking over that role and is going to be the starter as they head into this season. I think it's one of those things that you need to make sure that your offense is more explosive than it was a year ago, and a year ago you had Braden Locke under center. So unless he took very big steps forward, I think it was going to be really hard for him to win this job. I think Tyler Van Dyke is a very talented player, someone that obviously has not had the greatest 2 seasons behind him, but when you look back at that 2021 season, there's some special there. There's no two ways about that. Injuries kind of got in the way a little bit, and if he can take firm control of this offense and really run things at a high level, this could be a dangerous group. It's not going to be the most incredible offense in the world or be top 10 or anything like that, but moving the ball and then playing Luke Fickle defense is never a bad way to go about business. So definitely a really big update there. Tyler Van Dyke is likely to be the starter for Wisconsin, and he'll get to face Alabama week 3, which is plenty of fun for him, I'm sure. Going over to SMU, they had a little bit of a quarterback battle going on over there. They brought 2 quarterbacks to the ACC Media Days, which made a lot of people wonder who was going to be the starter as they head into the season. Preston Stone was the starter for much of last year, but then Kevin Jennings, the backup, came in and won the AAC championship for them. So kind of hard to argue with that result, you know. You got to give that guy at least a little bit of a look. It sounds like they feel really good about both of them, which is obviously a huge thing. It's a good problem to have, obviously, when you're deciding between 2 quarterbacks that you feel good about. Now, there are some people that are deciding between 2 quarterbacks they don't feel great about, and they're trying to figure out just which one gives them a better chance to win. I think both these guys could easily win big-time games for SMU this upcoming year, but it does sound like it's going to be Preston Stone. It sounds like he's taken a little bit of a lead in this battle, and frankly, Kevin Jennings is going to play this year. I have no doubt in that, whether it's injury or just getting him on the field because he's that darn good. But I do think it's going to be one of those things that you'll lean on Preston Stone whenever you need Kevin Jennings. He's right there and plenty capable to take those reins. But in week 0 on October 24th, you will likely see Preston Stone trot out there first with the first team offense against Nevada. Then we'll get into North Carolina State. No Rogers is the story. And frankly, I think a lot of us saw this coming. The transfer over from Ohio State, a very, very talented kid coming out of high school, and he's impressed very early on in fall camp. A very, very talented kid, one of those guys that, as his teammate Kendrick Raphael described him, a freak of nature, and he looks that way. There's no two ways about that. I talked about this a lot on here, but he feels like the perfect addition to this team. I think Kevin Concepcion, who had 71 catches, 839 yards, 10 touchdowns a year ago, an absolutely elite player, might just be a little bit more elite if you have that, tactician route runner in the middle of the field that can take a lot of the running or linebackers' attention, can pull up the safeties a little bit, and just make life a little bit harder on some of these defenses than they had a year ago, where you knew where 10 was, you likely knew where the offense was going for a lot of ways. Now you have to worry about number 10, number 5, and number 11. I can't remember what Justin Joly is wearing, but Justin Joly is getting big time praise as we head into this season, and another guy that they very much need to hit. And also Keaton Jackson, the guy in your picture, a freshman wide receiver, another camp standout. So this passing attack could be as scary as ever for North Carolina State, and if Grayson McCall can play that 2021-2022 football that he played at Coastal Carolina, this is an ACC title type team. This is a team that can absolutely play with everyone in this conference and might just leave this year with the best offense in the entire league. So a very, very fun group. It feels like Kevin Concepcion might just not be out there on his own this year. So definitely a good sign for them and all of the transfer guys that they need to hit. It seems like everything's going fairly smoothly up there in Raleigh. Now let's get to Texas, because there's questions around that interior defensive line. After this weekend, they don't feel like they're too big of questions anymore. They feel very, very confident about that interior defensive line. Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton played very, very well in their scrimmage. In fact, it sounds like the defense overall just outplayed the offense. That tends to happen in the first scrimmage of the year, but at the end of the day, still very impressive, still something they very much need. The pass rush is as elite as it looks on paper, apparently. They are getting home pretty much every time, and it's going to be a ridiculous group on that side of the ball. So overall, you lose two massive guys on the interior, and they're very important. Overall, the defensive line could be better this year for Texas, just because of the elite edge rushing and some of those tackles like Alfred Collins, like Vernon Broughton, like Bill Norton and Tia Savea coming along a little bit faster than some people might have suspected. So a huge, huge thing for them. And then the safeties on the back end of this defense look really, really strong. Isaiah Makuba got a pick off Quinn Ewers during their spring practice, it sounds like. In fact, it sounds like Quinn Ewers got off to a little bit of a slow start, but once they got into a rhythm, did the two-minute drill, red zone type stuff, he was very, very sharp. So overall, I don't think they need to worry about Quinn Ewers by any means, so I'm not necessarily putting too much into that. But it sounds like the safeties on this team are absolutely incredible. Michael Taft, Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams, and Makuba all making big-time plays for them, and that was the other worry for this team. So if interior defensive line is worked out, and if the back end is worked out, particularly the safety position, they're going to be more than fine. This is a very dangerous team that is going to make plenty of plays. It sounds like Jahdae Barron is going to move over to the corner position and play a little bit there, and has played pretty well there in short amount of time. The one big kind of interesting tidbit that came out of this was Darian Gillette, the linebacker slash edge rusher for Texas, has moved over to running back, gotten a couple of touches there with CJ Baxter going down. Could just be a pass pro type guy, one of those really physical blocking guys that you need at that point in time. So definitely a really interesting thing to watch. We'll keep you updated if any more guys move there or if Darian Gillette doesn't end up there. So definitely will be fun to watch that. Over to A&M, they had some very, very bad news this past weekend with Reuben Owens going down during the scrimmage. It sounds like he injured his knee and is going to be out for the season. This is a huge loss. There's no two ways about that. This was likely going to be the starter heading into the season, much like Texas with CJ Baxter. In fact, these two guys were number 1 and number 2 in the 2023 running back class. So, two very, very talented guys in the state of Texas will be sitting on the sideline this year. Le'Veon Moss just became that much more important for this team, a huge player this year, where it felt like he was going to be kind of a supplemental piece. He might just be the feature back now, so he's got to be ready to roll. And then the other guy I want to talk about here is Cassius Howell, a very, very talented transfer from Bowling Green. When you have Nick Scourton on one side of the ball, if you have someone else on the other side that's terrifying as well, you're going to have a really, really good pass rush. So Cassius Howell, the edge rusher that came in from Bowling Green, has gotten a ton of big-time praise. And frankly, if that's the mismatch that they have against offensive tackles for Notre Dame that look a little bit questionable at this very moment, they might just be able to dominate that game and give Riley Leonard absolutely no chance to get into a rhythm. So a ton of different scrimmage reports that will be coming out over the rest of the day into tomorrow that we will absolutely break down. Frankly, we're going to do a lot of fall camp intel breakdowns throughout this week because there's so many different things coming out as we get a little bit close to the season every day. But let's take our last break here, and when we come back, we're going to do some Monday questions. We're going to get back into Week 1. We did a Week 1 segment a couple of weeks ago. Can't exactly remember when I did it, but we did a couple of questions there. I want to get back into it, do a little part 2 here, and break down some of the other questions I have about Week 1 as we get a little bit closer. So stick with us, and we'll be right back with that.